Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting this morning on this another very grey and rainy day, but we are hopeful that the sun will come out sometime. Welcome, and welcome to those of you who might be joining at home. We begin, as we always do, with apologies for absence. I have Councillor Mark Mather. Are there any others? No? Thank you. So the minutes of the meeting last time, on the 13th of January, when I think it was still raining, actually. Can I agree these to record at the end of the meeting and sign them? Are you all happy with that? Are you proposing that, Councillor Chicken? Yeah, seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. All in favour? Councillor Stewart, are you also in favour? Right. Good. Okay, that takes us on to disclosure of members' interests. And I assume everyone has read through this and sorted that out, which takes us on to the main business, really, of today, which is agenda item 4, which is around next year's budget, 26-27, and the medium-term financial plan. And I am going to ask Councillor Oliver, who leads for us on finance, to take us through this paper, and then we can have some questions afterwards.
Thank you, Leader. So this report is really is before us today as Cabinet to agree to make the recommendations to full Council. And this is obviously not a new process. We've all been heavily involved in getting to the point we're at today since last summer. I'd just like to sort of put on record thanks to Jan and Alison and their team in the Finance Department, but also to all the other officers. We've had dozens of meetings. There's been a lot of very detailed discussion. I'd like to thank you all as well for your involvement in that. It's been quite a difficult process. We set out at the beginning of the process with sort of an indication of where funding was going to go with the Fair Funding Review 2.0. And at that point, we had a sort of some cause for optimism, which was sort of sadly dashed just before Christmas when we actually got the preliminary settlement. We've had, just to go through the sort of process of getting there, there's been a lot of meetings, cabinet members and exec directors have been asked to put forward efficiency savings, and but also we've had to sort of consider all of the growth and where demand is going for our services. And as is well documented, we've got very high demand in areas like SEN, special needs education, but also in many of our adult services as well. And so it is a very difficult operating environment. The Fair Funding Review sort of set out some principles, and those principles have sort of were I have to say, sort of changed at the last minute. The original principles was it was supposed to be a sort of simpler process, and it has become a simpler process. A lot of the grants have been rolled into the main revenue services grants, but there was initially 600 million top sliced from that sort of national funding for, and that was put aside into what was called a recovery grant. And unfortunately, we are one of the councils that are not receiving any recovery grant. I think it's worth noting also that I think just yesterday it was announced that another 440 million is being top sliced over the next 3 years. And again, we're not one of the recipients of that, so that's not good news for Northumberland. When the original proposals were made on that top slicing and on the changes, the IFS, which I think is widely accepted to be pretty sort of neutral politically, said it is difficult to see a principled basis for these decisions other than to achieve an overall allocation more in line with the government's subjective judgment. Government should avoid such formula bypasses becoming a habit. So I think that gives sort of a fairly good indication of what's going on. And just yesterday, the County Council's network said ministers have chosen to target even more resources on a select cohort of urban and metropolitan councils today's decision to increase the recovery grant by a further 440 million, rather than providing extra funding to all county and unitary councils, is unfair and compounds the decision to downgrade remoteness within the formula. And obviously, that's we are one of the most remote councils in the whole country, so that's not good for us. Having said all of that, we have, through a lot of hard work, managed to get to what we a pretty sound balanced budget, and there's been a main priority has been to try and minimise the impact on frontline services, and we believe what we'll be putting before council next week achieves that. And we have to make some difficult decisions, but what we're trying to do is deal with the sort of rising pressures, increasing costs by becoming more efficient as an organisation. And if we hadn't set out on the best journey a couple of years ago, I think we would be having a very different discussion today. Things would be much tougher. So there's been a lot of hard work, and that work is allowing us to set a balanced budget. So I think also on consultation, we've had a lot of consultation. I think there's been more engagement with this year's budget consultation than there has ever been. And we've had 2 budget forums with all members. It's been to scrutiny recently. Maybe suggest that next year we do some training for our members of parliament, because they seem to be mistaking the government funding settlement, and they were saying it was 102 million. In fact, it was 13 million over 3 years. So perhaps we could offer them some training next year. But we are where we are. We've got a proposal to put in front of full council next year, next week, which I think sits well with our corporate priorities. And I recommend that we make that proposal to council.
Thank you very much for that. As you say, there has been a significant and long period of consultation. We went round the county, and I went to a number of meetings, meeting people to find out what they would like to see us do more of or less of, and how they would like us to spend their money in the way that they would like us to in their particular area. And in addition to that, we carried out an online consultation which drew nearly 2,000 responses, which I think is the highest response we've ever had. And it was a very, very pleasing result, which I'll explain to council next week. In addition to that, this report has been to scrutiny, which was an opportunity for the scrutiny function to challenge us on the areas within this, which was a very good and robust discussion and helpful. And I hope very much on the point around general understanding, it would be very helpful, I think, for folk just to kind of bear in mind that of the 4.99% council tax increase, which if council agrees, is the one that will go forward, only 2.99% of that actually is the county council element. The 2% above that goes to adult social care and is ring-fenced for that. So how do we manage to do a budget for the next 3 years when inflation is currently 3.7%? How do we manage to keep our increase at 2.99? And the answer is by very careful budgeting, by being very tough on the way we want to see transformation take place, by taking people with us on that journey, including the excellent trade unions, to whom I'm very grateful, and making sure that we run as a really good team, which is what we do now. We are obviously very careful around our capital programme, and we know that the capital programme is absolutely one that our Treasury experts agree is absolutely fine in terms of size and nature. That has been backed, of course, by a recent peer review by the LGA and, of course, our external auditor. So whilst it might look to some that it is a lot of money, it is actually how councils spend money. They use their borrowing power in order to fund projects like we are doing, which we know right across the council is seeing new areas of development, like the Northumberland line, which we'll see its next station open very soon and the final station open very soon after that. And also the excellent work that we do in all areas of our services, whether it's education, where we are rated as good and outstanding, our skills programme, our culture programme, and a whole wide range of work that we do. I'm particularly proud of the work we do in our economic development and regeneration, which has seen some real entrepreneurial work done, and I'm very grateful to those officers who have done so much to help us to develop and then lead on the largest investment made in Europe in data centre campuses development in Camas, which will bring with it that 110 Northumberland Growth Fund, which will fund new business and jobs right across the county. So it won't just be the South East that will see the jobs and all the opportunities, it will be across the county. And so it is very pleasing to see that, along with a leisure offer that we know is second to none, and so many other things that we are doing. So I'm grateful, as Councillor Orber said, very grateful to our staff right across the county council who have found those savings necessary to be able to deliver the budget and to continue to deliver free town centre car parking, which we know so many of our colleagues find so useful and rare these days, as well as a whole range of other frontline services that will remain protected. So a great deal of thanks to you, Nick, for all the work you've done, and also to all the officers right across the council who've helped us produce this budget. So are there any, we look forward to next week at council, and I look forward to any potential challenge, and we'll welcome that, and hopefully all the groups will see that they want to share that same ambition that we have. We will share it with them, so they will feel very much involved as partners in delivering the ambitious programme that we want to see for Northumberland now and continuing. Councillor Horncastle or Councillor Stewart, anything? Councillor Horncastle.
No, nothing to add, sorry.
Councillor Stewart?
Yeah, congratulate Nick and the officers for working extremely hard to produce this. It is a difficult one. Last Friday, I attended the police panel meeting for the budget setting in Gateshead, and it was clear that everybody who was there was disappointed by the government settlement. In Northumberland, we lack sufficient police cover, but the panel voted, I didn't, and my colleague from Northumberland didn't, either for 9.45% increase, which is a massive increase. And residents in my ward in Prydain, throughout the whole of the county, being rural or urban parts of the county, a lot of people will struggle to find that additional few pence which will be added to the council tax bills, enforced because of this dysfunctional and disliked government who are failing to support the local authorities and their own police authorities. Councillor Oliver, can you recall that the Prime Minister has said more than once that there will be no increase in council tax?
Well, it's all over Facebook. There's a very popular meme, which is a recording stitched together of the Prime Minister saying many, many times that there would be no increases in council tax if they became the government.
So thank you for that. Yes, it's 9.45%, I think, for the police authority, which is a big increase, let's face it, and something that we wouldn't want to do. I think, Councillor Horncastle, you might also have been thinking about the satisfaction level of our tenants in the county and how important housing is to us.
Absolutely. Are we talking now about the rise in the rents? So.
No, we're talking here about the recent survey that was carried out on tenants that showed that we had the best satisfaction level, I think, for their housing service in the North East.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about the rents. No, we've recently, well, there's national tenant surveys carried out, annually, and we always come very near the top, and we provide excellent housing services, not just the standard houses that we've got, but all the new developments we're doing, the specialist housing, dementia care, and we have an excellent relationship with the Tenants Forum, and we're very happy with our housing, and yeah, I'm very proud of our housing services indeed. And
good.
hopefully, when we look further afield in the next year or two with the new local plan, we will actually be bringing on stream more and more affordable homes, especially in the north and west.
Excellent, thank you for that. John Riddle?
Thank you, Leader. I've been privileged to have actually been in the Cabinet here for quite a number of years now, and I don't think I've ever known such a difficult budget setting process. We must have had in my opinion, between 20 and 30 meetings just to discuss budget issues. And, you know, we haven't come to this conclusion lightly. And, you know, I also want to add my thanks to Jan and Nick in particular, and Alison and the rest of the directors for working with us and, you know, being so diligent in trying to protect frontline services. But, you know, you did mention the borrowing before, and yes, you know, it is quite a lot of money. But if we cast our minds back to COVID, inflation absolutely went phenomenal after COVID with building costs, etc. And if we hadn't, you know, held our nerve and continued with our investment in schools and new schools and leisure centre improvements, etc., they would have been probably out of reach now to do that work now. So, you know, yes, we have to pay back interest, etc., but remember that it is a very, very lucrative interest rate that we get from the Public Works Board.
Thanks for that. So, if that are all the points anybody would like to make, that's fine. Going back to you, if you want to propose the recommendations, Councillor Oliver.
Yes.
And say anything else that you wish to.
No, well, I mean, just picking up on John's point, I go to sleep at night with your voice, Leader, ringing in my head saying, can we go through the capital programme one more time? We've been through it over and over and over again, and I think we look at each line and justify it in terms of the impact it's going to have on our communities, in terms of the efficiency, revenue savings that it'll bring to our revenue accounts, and you know, and to the long-term prospects of the county. Of course, what we must do is make sure we invest in our county so that people in future, you know, because otherwise, if we didn't do that, we would have increased social care costs in the future. And so I think, you know, it's a measured programme, and I fully support it.
Good. Okay, so you're proposing the recommendations.
Yes.
And seconded by Councillor Stewart. Thank you. Are you all in favour of the recommendations in front of us? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we move on now to item 5, which is the Revenues and Benefits Policies 26-27. And over to you again.
Yeah, well, I'll be very brief on this one because this is a sort of procedural report that we have to make the recommendations set out to take it to full council next week. I'd just like to highlight there is a minor issue in the report. I think, remember when we discussed it at full council, we agreed that the capital disregard would be increased to 8,000 instead of the 6,000 as it's set out in the report. That is going to be corrected before next week, and we will be going forward with the 8,000 figure, and that's on pages 376, 401 and 429. So that with that correction, the appendices from page 247 onwards set out the policies, the council tax discounts, policies for caravans and chalets, business rates, and Appendix 6 summarises the whole policy over 60 odd pages. And then importantly, and this is a very thorough piece of work that was done, page 457 sets out the integrated impact assessments of the proposed changes that we debated at full council last month. So I don't think I need to say any more than that. Make the recommendation.
So the recommendation is for us to approve the policies attached to Appendix 1 to Appendix 6 and the associated amendments. Are you proposing that for me?
Yes.
Yeah, and seconded by Councillor Wimmer. Any questions or queries on this one? No? Okay then. So in that case, would you like to vote on this? Are you all in favour of the recommendation? Yeah, you are. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So we now turn to agenda item 6, the corporate fraud policies for 26-27. And again, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Leader. This is, again, another procedural item where we basically have to make the recommendations because they form part of the, next week's full council meeting. We have a very, very effective in-house anti-fraud team who work with the Internal Audit Service. They report to Audit Committee twice a year, and it's always, you know, they get full cross-party support at every one of those meetings because of the excellent work they do, particularly on stopping fraudulent council house purchase applications, which keeps and has kept many, many council houses in public ownership available for residents rather than being fraudulently bought and taken out of the system. So these policies basically underpin the work that team, a very small but very efficient team, do, working not only for us but also for other housing providers, and it basically sets out those policies, and particularly anti-money laundering and anti-fraud, bribery and corruption policies. So I'd make the recommendations as set out in the report.
Okay, so that's the recommendation to approve this policy. Any questions? Are you seconding, Councillor Wimmer? No questions, so can you all show me if you agree with this? And that is unanimous as well. Thank you very much. Now, we come towards the best part of these meetings, which is a summary of new capital proposals. And we have a number this month. The first one is to the excellent Queen's Hall Theatre and Arts Centre in Hexham. And I'm going to ask Councillor Patterson to tell us a bit more about this.
Thank you, Leader. Well, I had the pleasure of visiting the Queen's Hall in Hexham just before Christmas. I was slightly too early for the panto, but there was lots of rehearsals going on. So this is an absolutely wonderful building, very impressive, and a fantastic facility for the people of Hexham and the surrounding area. However, it does need some roof and internal improvements and an upgrade in lighting and heating. So the proposal is that we approve 150,000 in total, 50,000 from the property stewardship, rather hard to say that, fund, and 100,000 from the Strategic Regeneration Fund. And so I do hope that the Cabinet will approve that.
Thank you. Yes, so this is a very interesting new project of improvements that will bring the theatre up to date.
Absolutely.
In terms of some of the technology involved and in terms of making it look even better than it does. The plan is, I think, around £500,000 project, which it is hoped that Arts Council will give the funding, or most of it, the funding to the Queen's Hall. So what we're doing here is we're actually lending this money in the first instance, but we will gift 50,000 as well towards this. And it's worth bearing in mind that we actually give a large amount of money every year, don't we, to Queen's Hall. I think it's about 80,000 or so, perhaps a bit more. And we will be considering looking at that figure in the years to come to see if we can find a little more.
As a council, we do value our theatres very much.
We do. So there's a good project. I'll take the proposals and agreement at the end when we've done the others, if that's okay. So the next one, if there are no questions about that one, the next one is around Lindisfarne Park in Alnwick. So will you tell us about this one, please, Councillor Riddle?
Thank you, Leader. I think we all know how much the public value our green spaces and country parks, etc. And this is actually a proposal to create a neighbourhood park. The Lindisfarne Middle School was closed in Alnwick in 2017. But since that time, we've been maintaining the grounds and keeping them tidy, etc. There's been a large public consultation about this, which was very supportive. It has the support also of the 2 local members, and in fact, Councillor Castle is giving £5,000 out of his members' schemes money. This will create a wonderful area with a network of circular paths. It includes scraping off some of the paths that's already there, etc., creating new paths. The big part of the money, I think, is on tree planting, and some of those will be standard trees, some of them will be whips, etc. There'll also be lots of, wildflowers and bulbs planted. There'll be extra seating. There'll be also new gates, I believe, on one of the entrances, the one that goes out onto Blakelaw Road, and different types of signage, interpretive signage. I presume some of that will be tactile, etc. as well. And the current football pitch will be downsized to a 5-a-side type area. So this is really quite a small amount of money. It's £92,000 altogether. And I definitely will be hoping that Cabinet will support this.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, so this is a bit of land that hasn't been used for a while. It was playing field. And thanks to the work of Councillor Castle and actually Councillor Swinbank as well, who's been heavily involved in this, to create what will be an addition to the green spaces and parks that we have in Northumberland. Why are we wanting to spend this money? Because we know that our residents want more in the way of recreational places to go, to parks and to green spaces. And so that's why we're spending actually nearly £100,000 on this scheme. I greatly appreciate this, and I think it'll be a great thing for Alnwick, and I'm sure that people will agree with that. Okay, any questions, queries about this one? No. If not, then we move on to Northburn. No, we don't. We move on to the Cramlington Regeneration Programme. This is a scheme where we spend money to undertake the construction of the Northburn Sports and Community Centre Master Plan, Phase 2. And would you like to speak to this one, Councillor Patterson, along with the master plan that goes into a little bit more detail about what it's actually going to be used for?
Thank you, Leader. The Northburn project is to address the shortage of quality football facilities in Cramlington with a full-size 3G floodlit football pitch. So just to give you some figures, the total capital cost of this proposal is estimated at 1.5 million, with a request for match funding of 250,000 to be allocated from the remaining capital allocation for the Cramlington Regeneration Programme and 100,000 from the Sports Development Reserve and 50,000 from Cramlington United FC and 1.1 million grant from the Football Foundation. And can I also just say that back in the summer I went to Northburn and they provide a tremendously valuable facility for those suffering with autism. And I was extremely impressed when I was there. And so this will upgrade the facilities they're currently using as well. So a great project.
Excellent, thank you. What a good bit of joint working this has been amongst a number of partners, including the County Council, and I'm very pleased that we have this coming forward today. I think it'll be a great asset for Cramlington. Any questions or queries about this one? Okay, so that's great news. And then finally, the Alexandra Park Skate Park redevelopment. Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Leader. As you say, this is a redevelopment. The area is currently home to an activity trail, an adventure playground, a multi-use games area, mugger pitch, and a dog park. But the existing skate park is somewhat outdated and really needs upgrading. This will enhance the park. It's a very popular park, gets a lot of use. The Town Council are very supportive of this and they've recognised the need to improve things there. And they also complement the investment that we're putting in with the Cramlington Regeneration Programme. There are already the active travel corridor and also links to the Learning Village, etc. This project will be delivered by Cramlington Town Council. They had quite a large consultation with 56 users, and the new designs intended to incorporate both beginner-friendly and advanced sections. The existing bowl, which was identified as highly valued by users, will be retained and integrated into the new layout with ramps, jumps and seating areas. It's one of the most popular youth destinations in the town, but its current condition and capacity don't meet the current demand. Rather than replace worn-out components, this proposal represents a long-term investment in an expanding modern facility aligned with changing youth activities and increased popularity for wheeled sports. The cost proposal is $350,000, which is proposed will be allocated in 26-27 from the capital allocation for the Cramlington Regeneration Programme.
Good. And another example of very good partnership working with Cramlington Town Council. So we find this money from the money we've already put to one side for the Cramlington Regeneration Programme, and they take it over and run it and look after it. And I think it's a really great scheme and shows what can be done when people work together. And I'm very grateful to Cramlington Town Council for all the help. And I'm pleased that we made that decision a year or two ago to allocate specific money to Cramlington because of the value of the town. Okay, so any questions on this one? So there we are. There are three. Would you all like to vote on them? I propose them formally. Seconded by Councillor Chicken. Are you all in favour? Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so now this is a very important paper coming up, and I'm going to ask Councillor Patterson to go through it stage by stage, I will leave it with you, and then I'm sure there'll be some other points we want to put in at the end.
Thank you, Leader. Well, we have a fantastic library service, 29 libraries, over 50,000 users, maybe about 52,000, but we certainly have a lot of users. Many of them are digital and use the Borrow Box service. And actually the way we read is changing, which is why we're doing a library consultation. And so we very much want to hear from all of our residents what they feel about the library service, what we can do, what maybe we can do better. And that consultation starts on the 16th of February and runs for 8 weeks until the 13th of April. And so the consultation will be available on the council's website, parish and town councils, libraries, all sorts of places, mobile libraries. It will be available for anyone to download and complete, and we do hope everyone will do that. We want to create a new library and information service where customers can access a wider range of library and council services by merging the libraries and customer services from front of house teams. So this would mean a new job description for all teams, as they would have to have a blend of current duties. All of this will depend on the library consultation and the results that we get back. What I would like to say is we have 3 community facilities who have library shelves. So that's 2 or 3 shelves of library books, which obviously we will deliver the books. And we'd like to broaden that out. So if anyone knows of any community facilities who would like to have some community shelves, we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much. So the library service is very important. We have to provide a library service by law, but we have actually done a lot more than many other councils have done over recent years, not just in continuing to provide small local libraries, but also a library van. And we know that the amount of library vans have been reduced significantly by councils over the years. We will continue with our library van, and I'm very proud of the fact that we will do that, so that people in the rural areas and those areas that find it more difficult to get to local towns will still have a service, and it will be redesigned to fit modern practices and finances. If we were not to continue with a commitment to our libraries, we would be letting down people in rural areas, and we're not going to do that. You did touch on the fact that the big libraries will continue in the big towns like Hexham and so on, and there will be smaller ones that we would look forward to inviting volunteers to help us run those, as you said. I think that's a popular model that's been used elsewhere. I think at the end of the day, the library service costs us £2.5 million. And that's a lot of money. And like every service that the council provide, we have to look at how we can make it more efficient and cost effective. And that's why we're looking to save some money over the next period of time. And that is why we're going out to consultation now to make sure that we get everybody's thoughts on how we should move forward with the changes that we're suggesting making. And I must stress again that we are very keen to ensure that remoter rural areas continue to get access to a service, and we will continue to give that assurance. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Leader. I've been involved in this process with Wendy and as these plans have been developed, and I think it's really, really important to stress that this is about providing an improved library service. There are savings targets attached, as there are in across all services across the council. But what we're trying to do here is actually make it a more consistent, more efficient service. And the universal front door concept is really, really important because it gives better access to many of our residents to council services, and we're just in the final stages of procurement on a new CRM system, a new customer relationship management system, which will mean that more services will eventually be able to be accessed through our libraries, as the staff working there are sort of hooked into central council functions. So it will be a better service. We have a high level of library provision compared with most authorities. We've got an excellent digital offer, and I think what we're proposing, what we're consulting on now, will make it still better.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely correct. Guy Renner-Thompson and then Councillor Horncastle.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think you mentioned that it's a legal requirement to have a library service, but under my understanding, if we just had one mega library somewhere in the county, that would be our legal duty served. So by having the service that we have, we are going well and above the statutory legal duties that we have. And we do that because we recognise that this is an important service, especially in our rural areas. Councillor Oliver mentioned the one-stop shop model. This has worked really well in Alnwick. If you go to the Playhouse there, you can access all council services, pay your parking tickets, talk about your council tax, but it's all in one building. And that has saved money by moving staff from other older buildings in Alnwick. It's been able to do some fiddling around with the estates, but it's made life better for the people of Alnwick. So it's a system that works. And finally, we have the community library in Sea Houses. It's in the hub there. It's run by the Development Trust, and the council come and rotate the books. So there's always different books for people to pick up and read. So it is a service that works, and I would encourage other communities across the county to look at that.
Very wise words. I agree. I was in the Alnwick, the hub the other day, and I was really impressed by all the service you could get there. Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this takes me back many, many years. It must be at least 20, 25 years ago. there was a threat to the closure of Allendale Library. And I was interviewed on television. And there was obviously in the parish of Allendale, there was an uproar about this. And ever since then, every year when we have bits of updates about the libraries, I'm always worried about Allendale Library is going to close. I mentioned that Allendale because it's the only library I've got in my division. So it's very dear to me. And it would have been very easy this time round with all the cuts we've got to make because of the terrible settlement from the government to actually say, well, we don't have to provide 30-odd libraries in Northumberland and get by with, like Guy Rennan Thompson says, legally we get by with one super library or, you know, half a dozen in the larger towns. But to have 30 libraries and a mobile library van, it's an excellent service that it just shows that we actually care, not just about the larger towns, but the rural areas, and this is an absolutely fantastic service. And what I'm trying to say now is that for the first time in many, many years, I feel safe and secure that these libraries are going to survive instead of worrying every year they're going to close. So this is excellent. So thank you to Wendy Patterson and Executive Director Jill O'Neill for all the work that they've put into this. And let's see what comes out of the consultation, but this is excellent news.
Good, thank you. Anything else from anyone else? So there are 4 recommendations, which I just want to cover quickly. One is around to note what has been done so far, and grateful for Wendy Patterson's involvement, and also officers, of course, in looking at proposals for an integrated library and information service, to redesign the mobile library offer, to approve an 8-week period of formal consultation, which begins next Monday and goes on until the 13th of April. And that will cover a whole range of different ways of consulting with people, and not just online, but in libraries and so on. And then there will be a further report following that for us to look at what the public have said and then take a decision about the best way forward. So there we are. You proposing those recommendations? Yes. Seconded by Councillor Stewart. Are you all in favour of those recommendations? You are. Thank you very much. So we now move on to another very important report, which I'm going to ask Councillor Chicken to tell us about.
Thank you, Leader. This morning we are seeking support to redevelop the Foundry House site in Bedlington and develop that into a care facility. At the moment, the site is vacant. It was being used as offices, but it is now vacant. It is not within the council's interest and therefore the taxpayers' interest to sell it off or to develop it into something else. This is the best for value for money. We are looking to build a 36-bed unit for some of the most complex residents that we have. At present, we are outsourcing a lot of their care to other areas because we simply don't have the facilities for them. This will provide such a facility. We're also looking for support for potentially redeveloping some of the groundworks and putting in some bungalows at a later date. At the moment, we are looking at an annual saving of about £1.14 million by having this in place rather than outsourcing that care package. The cost of the redevelopment would be around £12.7 million from the capital budget, which is indicated in the 26-27 budget, which we will see next week. It is my firm belief that this is absolutely the right thing for Bedlington, the right thing for our residents, and the right thing for this particular site. It is located very well, which means staff retention and recruitment will be far easier than if we were to have it in another site, given its travel corridors. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So members will recall that this is one of the Investor Save projects that we have, which might, if Council agrees the budget next week, which will appear in the capital programme, but will have a return of something like £1.2 million every year through the saving of outsourcing the care of these very vulnerable adults. I think we're looking for about 36 places, I think. Is that right, Councillor?
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
about 36.
There we are. Complex care adults, really important to look after them in the very best way we can, and keep them close to home, if possible. Any questions or queries about this one? Yes,
Just a very brief comment. I think this is a really good example of the capital programme being used wisely, because those savings are after the capital financing costs of the development, and so we're getting a double whammy of providing a better service within the county rather than paying external providers, and saving money.
Exactly, and you have a similar kind of investor save so far as looked after children are concerned, I think, as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, tell us a bit about that one quickly, Kyle.
It's very similar to this project. We have a budget, which I can't remember off the top of my head, for... Originally, it was the building of new children's accommodation, but now we're moving more towards buying existing properties and converting them into children's accommodation. It comes with a large upfront capital cost, but it has large annual savings as well.
But we are spending huge amounts of money, aren't we, having cared for children, having to go across the country to find places, in terms of tens of thousands of pounds a month.
A week, leader, a week. So it depends on the complex needs of each individual child, but the most extreme cases are £40,000 a week per child. A lot of these companies have been, the private care companies have been bought by private equity firms. You know, they're very profitable because it's a closed market, and instead of paying those companies vast sums, we can bring it in-house and do it ourselves and save a lot of money.
So they're just two examples, this one and also what we are putting forward in the budget next week for children's homes that will save us money, and most important of all, will keep people in the area that they know and love. Okay, any other questions on this one? If not, would you like to propose the recommendations, please?
Thank you. I'm formally proposing those recommendations.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Oliver. Are you all in favour? That's unanimous, so thank you very much, and a great scheme we look forward to seeing come to fruition. The last paper today, I'm going to ask Councillor Renner Thompson to tell us about the school admission arrangements, please.
Thank you. So we go through this process every year of setting the school admissions arrangements for our maintained and voluntary aided schools. These are the schools that are still run by the council, of which the majority of schools in Northumberland are, but it's mostly the smaller first and primary schools, whereas the majority of our secondary schools are academy schools. Academy schools can set their own admissions criteria. However, we're fortunate in Northumberland that we get on very well with our academy schools, and the vast majority, if not all of them, are going along with our admissions criteria. It can cause problems because, for example, an academy chain, a secondary school could say, right, we're going to favour the children from first and primary schools that are in our own academy chain, but there may be other schools that are closer to that secondary school. So there are children from further away getting priority over the children that live next door. And you might get away with that in a city where there are lots of secondary schools next to each other, but in a rural county like ours, where secondary schools can be 10, 20, 30 miles apart, that has caused us problems in the past. But I'm thankful to say, through lots of negotiations with the academy trusts, we've got to a position where everyone's on the same hymn sheet. There are only two changes from previous years. The first one is the reduction in PAN numbers for Swollen Primary from 17 down to 15. This is completely supported by the school if you read the papers, which says they haven't had an incoming cohort of more than 15 children for a long time. This is an example of us working with our small rural schools to keep them open. We have often, at this top table, we've even gone against the recommendations of our own officers sometimes to keep these small rural schools open, so it's something that we're passionate about. we do this methodically, and we do it with a lot of consultation with the community. If you compare that to the dogs dinner that North Tyneside Council are making with their with their school closure arrangements at the moment, that just shows two completely different levels of how we approach things. The other small change is from the school's adjudicator relating to what evidence you can give to prove where you live when you make an appeal for a school place. But other than that, it's the same as what it was last year.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions or queries on this one? Comments? No? Okay, so are you proposing?
I will propose
And
that.
there's a seconder. Councillor Patterson is seconding. Are you all in favour? Please show that's unanimous as well. That takes us to the end of this meeting, a meeting in which we have agreed very ambitious investor save proposals, where we have invested in sport, we have invested in culture, we have invested in green spaces. That is very much the plan that we continue and hope to continue to make with that same level of commitment across the county. If we can get our budget agreed next week, and who could possibly not want to agree a budget like that? So thank you all very much, and thank you for joining us from home.